Social media, the fast-rising evolution of human communication led by advances in digital technology. We use it to network with family, friends, and professionals, blog to an audience of 1 or a million, create communities to grow, gather, or make a quick buck, share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content such as videos. That doesn't sound so bad, right? Everybody enjoys a community of like-minded individuals all laughing over the same memes and cat videos. What time before has given people such a platform to share their work, thoughts, or other forms of self-expression? You can leave more of an impact now than entire countries could decades ago. In fact, before 2006, only about 5% of Americans use social media. Today, in 2022, that number has jumped up to about 82%, which is 270 million Americans. To put that number into perspective, that number of people alone is more than the population of 98% of all countries in the world. Not only that, but companies are getting better at understanding our habits and have built fantastically accurate algorithms that try to maximize the time and money spent each time we open the app. The user base for popular social media sites continues to grow as Facebook nears 3 billion active monthly users, YouTube 2.6 billion, Instagram 1.5 billion, and TikTok, who's already surpassed 1 billion in a few short years. So one could assume that something so universally shared could be summed up in one statement. Social media is good.
Social media, I think, has democratized abuse.
We can't always trust what social networks serve up.
I think it tends to make people feel bad rather than good.
Social media puts these impulses on steroids.
Okay, social media is bad then.
That social media basically makes it easier to communicate and to collaborate.
In fact, studies on relationships have found that partners tend to like each other more if they meet for the first time online rather than with a face-to-face interaction.
Empathy is a learned skill, and we can use social media to develop it.
Tools have been made that encourage people to make the world around them better, whether that's by giving money, telling your friends and family you're safe, or by donating blood. In fact, this alone has led to more than 50 million people becoming blood donors around the world. Literally lifesavers.
Oh my God. All right, so social media isn't necessarily clear-cut good or bad. It's dependent on a lot of variables, and it's almost a situational experience. This doesn't mean, though, that there aren't trending overtones and themes that carry over into many users' experiences. For example, social media displays unrealistic lifestyles featured by gorgeous individuals that make up the 1% of the 1%. It allows us to hide behind screens and bare our fangs in the form of comments. Feelings and considerations are ancient history. Misinformation and political correctness play factors in our news and how we consume it. This video isn't about social media itself, it's how to enjoy it more. Get more out of your experience and take advantage of some accounts that are unique and unusual that you might not know about. Some of these accounts range from absolute nonsense that provide no real value to accounts that have a deeper purpose and are there to improve your life, and ones that simply entertain and shatter the mold of a typical browsing session on your bed. Here are the most interesting niche social media accounts. So what does Vsauce have in common with the NFL? You guessed it, Daniel Craig. More specifically, a Twitter account with the handle @CraigWeekend that they both follow. That plays a 4-second clip of Daniel Craig saying,
"Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend."
In 2021, New York Times featured the account and introduced the world to 18-year-old Miles Ryle, who has turned an exasperated Daniel Craig into a meme with 500,000 followers. Yeah, I know, it's not going to add anything of real value. But if you turn on notifications, you can be greeted every Friday evening with a Twitter notification to let you know that it's indeed the weekend. In all honesty, the reason I added this is that for most of us, myself included, the weekend is one of the only times we have to spend with friends and family before our lives restart on Monday and we go back to work in some capacity. Playing video games, hiking, and all of your hobbies are best enjoyed during the weekend. So sometimes a little is all you need. Everyone has been bullied once or twice in their life. We all secretly hope that the universe one day will deal those who would dare to ruin our wonderful day their comeuppance. In the world at large, there aren't bullies that give wedgies, steal your lunch money, or give you swirlies right before prom on your birthday, with the whole school live recording it and your ex-girlfriend spamming the fire emoji in the chat. No, there are bullies that masquerade themselves as companies and who disconnect themselves from morality so that they can take advantage of the little guy. You. No offense. Insert the account with the handle @BrandsOwned, whose simple goal is dismantling capitalism one L at a time. Like I said, their words, not mine. The content is by far more interesting, coupled with the fact that there is no backstory to this account with over 300,000 followers. The account features, well, screenshots of brands getting owned. More specifically, brands' social media accounts poor interns displaying their ignorance of the full might of the internet's wit. You might feel bad for them after knowing that, but it still doesn't feel any less satisfying to see Starbucks getting their ass handed to them. Cue the montage. There isn't any deeper meaning behind the account. It doesn't fix your caffeine addiction or magically materialize a fancy top hat when your dog shakes. It's proof that nobody is safe from the internet, and that in some weird way should bring you comfort. Perhaps the most mainstream selection on this list is a man on a mission to change the world. Get out of the way, Elon and Jeff, and make way for Dude with a Sign. Sometimes simple is better. Period. Occam's razor states as much, summarizing that the simplest solution is oftentimes the best solution. The account with the handle @DudeWithASign embodies simplicity, from the material he uses, the presentation, and down to the message itself. Forbes chronicles the beginning of Seth Phillips, who took to the Stop replying all to company-wide emails. It was relatable and electrifying in the odd way that he presented it to the world. 4 months later, 4 million people agreed with him. The appeal is in the relatability of what's on each sign. It's simple and funny, yet it hits at the core of a lot of problems that almost every person has. It's fairly easy to track what we do in a day. We can check our phones, watch, stove, and even use the sun if you're smart enough. I was not. But how easy is it to track the year? What does that even mean? Well, in terms of a percentage, there's one man who's made it easier to understand just how far along we are in the year. Insert Philip Prychek, who created a simple way to track the year progress. The account name, you might ask? Year progress. The account every few days tweets out what percent of the year we have reached. At the time of this video, we are sitting at 16%. Philippe has garnered nearly 600,000 followers, and if you're interested in replicating for your own personal use, he has a link to download the code. This is one of the most useful tools, in my opinion, that's free on the internet, to just have around and be aware of how far along the year is. Whether it makes you feel old or happy it's almost Christmas time, being conscientious is important. Sometimes words are hard, and even harder is putting them together into an easy to understand sentence, paragraph, or more. Different cadence, slang, and slight variations of the English language, let alone other languages, can make it difficult to completely understand what exactly is being said and to what end. If you've used Twitter or opened Twitter or have friends, you might have heard of something called Twitter Threads. It's a tweet inside a tweet that contains links and images and replies and other tweets with tweets inside of those. It's absolute chaos. Cal and Amy had an idea to solve the problem of complicated Twitter threads and thus created Thread Reader app, which unrolls long threads and displays them in an easy to read page. I use this all the time. I find really useful tweets that do pique my interest, but I just don't have the patience to go through a whole thread and then click the comments and then more subtweets and the tweets and then Twitter threads, and I just don't have time for that. 2 indie developers solved a niche problem that more than a few people had, and they've turned that problem into a website with full premium services. Earth has a lot of people. Some find passion in what they do, whether it's painting, mathematics, or electricity. You might be surprised to know that Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, and Nikola Tesla all lived in the 20th century. History seems long, and it's hard to grasp time, but these titans of talent lived well into the 20th century, with Picasso edging the closest to entering the 21st, dying in 1973. For reference, Picasso was alive at the same time as Starbucks and Bed Bath & Beyond. Naval is just as influential in the philosophical and entrepreneurial space as Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla is in theirs. I know it sounds crazy to say, but Naval has left a monumental impact on the startup and modern philosophy space. His Twitter, called Naval, has quite a large audience at 1.6 million, and his profile is occupied by deep insights into modern-day politics, business, and socioeconomical problems. He's not always right, don't get me wrong, but he gets your brain churning to form an opinion for yourself. He is an entrepreneur turned philosopher, starting as the founder of AngelList to creating content online via Twitter and his podcast to becoming one of the most influential people in the world on blockchain technology. He has rightfully earned the name Angel Philosopher. In the world of music, we as social creatures love to share our playlists with one another. It's a way to show off your taste and to claim dibs to obscure artists that have great music before anyone else finds them. Music fans have always found ways to celebrate their favorite artists and albums, which is exactly what Melody Hanyu's album receipts do. The digital artist has found a way to create an album track list as a store receipt. Something we normally disregard and throw away is now applied to a form of entertainment that we reuse over and over. Semi-ironic in a way. The receipt contains each album's original typography, as well as the back of the album's visuals. A truly unique aesthetic that has captured recognition from some of today's top artists and entertainers across the globe. Some have even contributed by signing their digital album receipt. NFT idea. If you're wanting to try this out for yourself, you absolutely can, and eventually hang your very own listening receipt in your home. What started as a fun project in May of 2020 during lockdown has turned into a business with over 150,000 followers in collaborations with Sony Music and Republic Records. New York City. The city among cities. With a population of nearly 8.5 million, the stories to tell are endless. Brandon Stanton started what was originally a photography project over a dozen years ago with the goal in mind of photographing 10,000 New Yorkers and creating a catalog of the city's inhabitants. Eventually something changed and he began to interview along with photographing them. Anywhere from quotes to short stories of their lives were displayed with their picture. All these years later, Humans of New York has gained over 20 million followers on social media, with Brandon publishing 2 best-selling books. If you never plan on visiting the Big Apple, checking out the account can show you some interesting people with just as interesting stories that'll make that quick bathroom trip turn into a half-hour session. I created a social media account right before I graduated college that made graphs and charts. I didn't have a name that I loved, and I wanted a logo that people would remember. So I asked my friends and family what they thought it should be named. The consensus was StatsPanda. Thus was born an account that just passed 10,000 followers. With one of the highest engagement rates on Instagram, I've fostered a community that is the absolute best at showing support, from DMs and feedback in the comments. I couldn't be more proud of this niche account of mine. StatsPanda has led into some incredible opportunities professionally. I've networked with other YouTubers, notable influencers, and media organizations that have shared my story and, more importantly, a love for what I do. I hope to continue to show simply. Kind of weird, huh? How all these incredibly niche accounts exist. I'm sure by the end of this you found something. Value, curiosity, interest for at least one of these small accounts. Social media doesn't have to be all bad. There are good things out there. You might just need to look a little harder to find them.